Hi, this is Cindy KK, and I'm going to do a recording on Google Forms. To access Google Forms, you simply open a browser window and go to your little mini app grid or that waffle that's in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to just get a plain old white search page, easier to see. That's where we can access all of our apps. You could alternatively type in your URL field, forms.google.com. Same thing to access any of the other Google apps, docs.google.com, classroom.google.com, and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Google Forms is the purple icon. If you find it someplace else, these are all draggable and droppable, so you can move it to a location that's convenient to reach. I just click on it to open it up. Google Forms is actually a survey tool that's become a very powerful resource for education. It was originally designed literally to do surveys, to gather feedback in various forms. And so then somehow I think educators got their hands in, said, hey, we can use this for tools. So we can use it for quizzes. And so it's a very handy tool to do quizzes that are pre-graded. So they're turned in, already graded. Just have to copy and paste your grades into your student management system, whatever that might be. We use Skyward, there's Power School, whatever that is. So we're at the home screen, the dashboard within Google Forms. Looks a little bit similar to some of the other apps. If you're in Docs, you have different templates available up here. Then at the bottom, you have all of the items that you have created. Now, yours probably won't look like mine. I'm always creating things, so I have lots and lots of junk down here. So yours might be empty. Up at the top, this is the short list. You have a blank quiz, which is what we're going to do. You start from scratch. Nothing's created, and we're going to use that. That is exactly the same as the blank quiz, except the quiz, there's one a setting you turn on, turns it into a quiz, but they're essentially the same. Then there's lots of templates that are available. So if you want to, if you're a little bit timid about creating something from scratch and want to jump in and try out some of the existing templates, feel free to do so. We got a party invite, customer feedback, exit ticket. Great tool for, well, when we were back in the classroom and students had their Chromebooks, and a lot of teachers would set up exit tickets, so they had to do one last thing before they were allowed to leave. Kids love it. It's a great thing. Now, there's more templates. If you see the template gallery that's gray right above there, I can expand that gallery and open up and see the other templates available to me. So there's a course evaluation, there's contact at RSVP, event registration, all of these different ones. To access any one of these, you literally just click and open it up, and you click on any of the items, the elements, the text, they become editable. You just type in your own information and you're good to go. So that's a very handy way to get accustomed to using it. They have lots of pretty backgrounds, but I'm going to show you how to do that on a blank quiz as well. I'm going to go back to our first screen with that back arrow. We're back where we started. And there's the same view available as with other Google apps. I'm looking at the icon view. That's pretty handy because I can see like, oh, I remember that survey with jelly beans. There it is. I can see readily. If you wanted more information about the forms you've created, right here, just above the storage area, you can change that to a list view. Then just like it does on Docs or Sheets or any of the other apps, it will list all of these items, and you can sort it however you want to. This shows me the first previous days, and then in the background they'll all be alphabetically arranged. And so you can look at that. You can also see then if somebody shared something with you, you can see who owns this, when it was last opened, and there's more information. You can rename it, remove it, or you have those options as well. So I'm going to change it back to icon view. I'm always flipping back and forth in all of the Google apps between list view and icon view because they just give you different information, and they're both great. So we're going to jump into the Google quiz. So I'm going to create a blank one. When we create a blank one, it automatically comes up, and I have my default color set to purple because we are the Purple Wildcats, and so that's kind of our color. And then I can actually just start typing. So I'm going to call this testing, very clever. And so I've named my form. You'll notice that it doesn't automatically name the form in the upper left-hand corner, so I need to click on that to do the same thing. I will show you one thing. If I start out by naming it up at the top, It will if I name it here first, it will automatically add that name here. Doesn't really matter, but just be aware of that. If you create a Google form, then you close out of it, you leave and you think, oh my gosh, it still says untitled form up there. I forgot to name it. Doesn't matter. Google saves everything. So you can always go in later and look at your list of forms and just go down. It'll be under the use, untitled forms. So you can just click there to title it and go on. Now, especially since we're working much more online with our new continuous learning strategy, then you probably want to add more information than you might have done if your students were in a physical classroom. Right under the name, I can do a form description. So I can say, this is blah, 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 whatever I would like to tell my students. You can do your whole story there, give as much background information as you need. And that's it. We've got our form titled. Now, it's already given us a blank question to start. So I just click on any of the text and I can, let me do an actual question. I never type, I just type gobbledygook, so hard to type. Gives me a question, and when I type in a question, it automatically, Google intuits what kind of a form that response should come in. So it thinks I might want to use multiple choice. Just to the right over here, I can actually select what I want. I could make it a short answer, and then it's going to give me that blank to fill in what the short answer text will be. So I'm going to leave that for now. I also, there's a little arrow when I move my mouse, the graphics icon pops out. So if I wanted to click on that, I could literally upload any picture. I could do a camera. I could do it by URL. Hang on. No camera selected. I'm just clicking on these. If I had photos, I could go across and add those. So that's what I can add graphics if I want to. Now that might be appropriate for especially teachers of lower grades where they like to see a lot of graphics. And actually it's a very useful field. You could have put up forms and have kids choose what is the shape that you could have a triangle and a rectangle and a square, and then have them choose and label what that form is. So that's why you have the graphics. So I'm finished with this question, and if I wanted to duplicate it, I have a little copy and duplicate button. Remember, when you point to anything with your mouse, the label as to what it is pops out. I still use that all the time. So that's very handy. Duplicate, which means copy too. So I could just copy that and do another question. You'll also notice in the bottom here, by default, this is a required response. And so I can turn that off if I want to. I don't have to have it, but I'm going to leave it on for now. There's 3 dots. Anytime you see that little vertical ellipsis, the 3 dots means there's more stuff you can do. Description, response, validation here. I'm going to go ahead and add another question. Actually, I'm going to show you here. I'll just show you right here. We've done this question, and I could also change it. Remember, it thought I wanted to do multiple choice. If I made it multiple choice, I could do, if I could spell, I could put the choices in. And, whoops. So I could, and it keeps giving me, as I type in options, it will keep giving me more. When I'm finished, I can do that. You can go in if I wanted to type another one. If I wanted to get rid of any of these, you'll see out to the arrow, whenever you move your mouse, there's an X. I really don't want that one. That one's gobbledygook, so I'm just going to X out of that one. You also have the ability where your mouse moves, there's those little 6 dots that appear, kind of looks like a texture. Think of it in terms of that. I can grab that and I can change the order. Like Washington, which is our answer, they might see that and say, oh yeah, that's who it is, but I might want to put it in a different order. I can do that. So that made out of multiple choice. Let's go ahead and add another question. So we have one question, title of our form, question, and then to add more content here, I have this little toolbar over here. This floats with us as we move down the screen. And so again, each one of these, the label, if I point my mouse to those, I see that the plus adds a question. I see I can import questions. If I have a list of questions elsewhere, I could actually import those already. I can add a title, description here. I can also add an image from this point, and I can also add a video. So one of the questions could be, view this video and write a synopsis. that would be, you might have your paragraph form, write a synopsis of that video, or you wouldn't say a synopsis if it's little kids, but that could be one of those options. That's the video. At the bottom, there's an add section. So right now I'm going to add another question, and this question is going to be, and I'm going to make this also, what is your favorite color? So you saw it jumps over short answer. It thinks that I want to type something here, and I could do that. But if I wanted to have a choice for students, I think I'm going to make this one. I have all of these choice, multiple choice. You have to choose one. Check boxes, you can choose more than one. Drop down, you also choose one, but it gives you a little drop down menu. So you can make those any way that you like. I'm going to make this check boxes just to show you what that looks like. So it gives me some check boxes. It puts the boxes right there, and I'll type in a couple of options. What is your favorite color? Red, but gray? Why would I put gray? Whose favorite color is gray? I don't know. Maybe there's somebody. So check boxes. So that's our next question. I don't want to add any more, so I just ignore that add option, the extra one it's given me, and it'll go away. Again, if I don't like this, I can throw it away. I can duplicate the question. It's set to be required, and I'm ready to go. I can do another question. I'm going to go ahead and do one more question, and this is going to be, what can I make this? Actually, what is your favorite food? And you can ask any kind of questions you want to here. It thinks this is going to be a short answer. So again, I can go in and decide what kind of feedback that I want. I'm going to make this a drop down just to show you that as well. So you'll have that option. I can say pizza, veggies, fruit, and you should spell it right if you're the teacher, I think. Ice cream. Okay, that's going to be a drop down. Now, I want to see what this is going to look like. So I'm going back up to the top. We jumped into creating our questions and instructing Google Forms how to do our responses. And if you want to go back and edit any one of these, I just go to the section and I click once, and that makes the whole box editable. So that's why you see those sometimes pop out. I can go back here. And sometimes I might be up here. So you see this first box is selected, and I'm going to add another question, and I'm getting ready to do that. But look, it's appeared right here after the first box that was selected. I really wanted it to be at the bottom, and I just didn't have my cursor at the bottom, because if I have it selected at the bottom and added, it comes underneath. But it's okay. I can go back in this question that I just created. It's got a drag handle too, so I can actually drag that anywhere I want in the order. So that's what those little drag handles are. So I'm going to make this one a date. So when I put date, it automatically intuits that I want a date format. So that's also one of the options. We also have some more complex types of responses that we could do. A linear scale, which is essentially the same as a Likert type scale, where you have sometimes surveys in restaurants. Agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and that kind of thing. So you could have something like that for feedback. You can have a multiple choice grid and a checkbox grid. You also have the time here. So for right now, I want to see what we've done and what it looks like before I go any further. So my date, I only have three. Oh, you have three questions. So back up to the top, as I said, we jumped in this while ago, but I want to now talk to you about the other options that we have at our very top menu area. I've been putting my questions in. I'm going to talk to you about these buttons on the bottom. Let me move my face out of the way. And this first item is, when I click on this, again, it pops out. These are add-ons. All of the Google apps have some add-ons. Those are just extensions or plugs that can enhance or introduce a little mini app that might make the app better. Those may or may not be turned off at your district. I think ours have been completely turned off. They've been completely turned on. I'm not sure where we are at the moment, but you can always request that one is turned on. I know that in Google Docs, for example, and Google Sheets, the spreadsheet, app. I know that a few teachers who use those frequently have requested apps be made available for everybody. So our technology department has then gone in and graciously turned on one or two of those apps that would be beneficial for kids, especially like in Google Docs doing research. There's some extra neat add-ons. So that's what add-ons is. If you don't have any, don't worry about it. You can certainly live happily without it. The next item is the customized theme. Now you could actually, before you even start putting in any of your questions, you can go in and set all this up in advance. But I think it's kind of useful to focus on the main task at hand. Kind of like, you know, when you've had students type something in Microsoft Word or Google Docs when we've done it, they will, before they even start getting anything in, they'll get just the right fonts. I've seen students, especially girls, do this, I think. Should I say that? That's probably not politically correct, but they'll go in and they'll change the color to pink, to purple. They'll change the font, have a script, have this and that. So you're completely, you know, by the end of the time you're supposed to have it done, you're still trying to decide on how pretty you want to make it. So I'd rather jump in and get that essential information there, then go in and double check our settings, because then we'll have an idea also as we're building this, what kind of response you think might be best for your purposes. So up at the top, here's the painter's palette, and that's where it's customized theme, it says. So when I click on that, it opens a little side panel over here, and this is where I can make it pretty. So I could choose an image. When I click on choose image, I have the option of using some of the existing high resolution photos that Google makes available. I could upload a picture of my choice, or I could upload photos, and this will take me to some of the photos that I have. I'm just going to go back to themes. They're broken down into categories, so you have quite a selection here. Sorry, I scrolled out a row. Just kids. So they have lots of nifty things. They have wedding. I mean, so you can do invitations. You can see all of the different range of pictures that you have. I'll go back to work at school. They have some neat, I like these pencils. I'm going to select that and I just insert. When I insert it, it puts it at the top of my form and it looks really kind of nice. It'll automatically have a corresponding color that they choose, but if you don't like that, you can change that. You can choose another accompanying color, green, blue, and you can also, right under the theme color, you can go in and make the background a little bit different so it tends to pop more. And then depending upon the image, you'll have certain colors available, and the next one might be a little bit brighter colors, so they kind of make available what's appropriate. Under the theme options also, if I drop down just a little bit more, wait, let me just move my picture out of the way. I also can select the font. This is in basic by default, so it's just kind of a non-serif, straightforward font, easy to read. If you have any doubts, you might just want to stick with that. You do have the option of selecting a really fancy kind of script, but remember that's going to be difficult to read. Oh, actually, you know what? They have changed that. This actually gives me only the testing, gives me the titles, the actual questions. The answers are still the same. That's kind of pretty. Anyway, I could also choose formal. This is more your Times New Roman kind of look, very classic. Or for school, you might want to try the playful. Now that could be fun. Who was the first president? And so you can change those however you see fit. I'm just going to leave everything on basic, and I'm finished with my theme option, so I'm just going to X out of there. If I wanted to change that, when I click on that, see the uploaded image, I just get rid of that and it goes back to nothing. I don't have anything there any longer. I could just have it plain and have a background color, and I can just make it very simple like that, or I can go back in and choose another image if I wanted to. Let's pick this purple. That's going to be a lot of purple, but that's a pretty snowflake. I like that. So there's my snowflake. Now you see again the theme color, and I can actually change and have something that kind of complements it, or play around with that. To get rid of this little side panel, I just click on the X to get out of it. So we're back to editing our question. Now you've noticed as I scroll down, the little menu for adding content that follows me, so I don't have to worry about where that is. It will be where I need it. The next thing after the palette at the top, there's this eye icon. When I let my mouse hover over it, it's preview. That means that as you're developing this, you're thinking, I wonder what this looks like to the people who are going to receive this. You can have a peek right there. If I click on preview, it's going to open it up in exactly the format that your recipients will receive your survey or quiz or whatever it is, and you'll be able to see what they see. So here's my pictures, and I scroll down, and remember who was the first president. If I were to choose an answer, I could select one of these. If I change my mind, you see I can only choose one, multiple choice, classic multiple choice. What is your favorite color? Remember the check boxes. I can actually use the check boxes to allow them to give more than one answer. So that's what the check boxes do. And then we did one that was the drop down, remember? So choose, it builds those instructions right in, choose. And I can use the drop down to select which one it is. I think veggies are my favorite. We do try to be healthy. Then at the very bottom, I added the date, and it gives me a date format. Now, a couple of things, I can actually use the drop down arrow to go in and to just select the date, and it puts it in automatic format, and so I'm good to go. Now, this is what it looks like. And so I really don't want to submit any of this. I'm just looking at it. And so if I want to go back and work on it some more, the little pencil in the lower right-hand corner of the window, that is edit, and that I just leave this page and it takes me right back into my editing mode. So that's where I am now. I'm going to add as well an extra, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a video. So, whoops, let me go down here, and I want to select, oops. Let me ask, get me a blank question, and here it is. Let me put it down at the bottom. And in this one, I want to add a YouTube video. So I click on video, and it takes me right to a YouTube search. And if I know the URL, I can just paste it right in. If I'm not sure what I want to use, I can do a search right here. Now, this is your regular YouTube search, so you're going to get a gazillion responses. So I would recommend qualifying and being as specific as possible in your search parameters. So I want to do black teddy bears. So there we go. That's going to bring me up. It's going to limit my responses a little bit more, so you could be as specific as possible, or teddy bear songs, or whatever kind of search parameters you want to put there. So I'm just going to select one of these. HD, adorable big black teddy bear. I like that one. I could preview this right here, or I can just click on it to select it and insert it. When I select it, insert it, there's my little video. So I can give it a name, and then I could have students, my dog just came in. Yes, it's teddy bears. You could have your kids preview the video. And you do have, when I click once to select the video, I have a little bit of leeway in resizing that if I want to. Not a whole lot, but I'll make it a little bit smaller. You could have them watch it and then add another question after that. Could you write a summary, please, about the video or the story that you saw, or respond to it somehow? So that could be that. Now, if I wanted to add another section, that's these two lines at the bottom. And what that looks like is I've really separated it. This is going to be for the recipients on another page altogether. And so this is what it will say after section 1, continue to the next section. So I just scroll down, and here it is. Here's my section title. Here's my description. If I want to continue adding questions, they're going to appear, and I keep going. So I'm not going to type anything real, just gobbledygook in the effort to save time. So now you'll notice I have section 2 of 2, but I hadn't created a section heading at the top. However, I see that when I scroll back up to the top, it did it for me. Since I added a second section, it refitted the first section for me. So now it's all separated. So that might be quite useful if you're dealing with kind of a lot of information that you're sending to your students. So I think that's all those essential elements. And so if I were wanting to see this again, remember, at any time I can jump in and look at the preview. Takes me to how the recipient would see it. I can scroll through. Remember, there's my calendar. Option 1, I think I didn't really do anything on that. Here's my little video, so I could see that if I wanted to. And then I think that's all we need to see. You'll see your drop down again, how it looks. And so to get out of that, remember, you click on the pencil to go back to the edit mode, and takes me right back to that. Now, before we send this out, you need to adjust some of your preferences or your settings, probably. I would definitely go in and have a look. I'm in editing mode now, and as I scroll down here, does it tell me anything? No, it doesn't say anything there. I'm going to go to my settings, and on my settings, I have 3 topics I can cover: general, presentation, quizzes. So this is where, remember I told you you can convert a blank one to a quiz. If I clicked quiz, I could just turn this on, make it a quiz. That's the same as the quiz template. So you could use either way. I don't want to do this as a quiz just yet, but be aware that's how you would do that. And on this area, you could control what your students see, and I'll show you where you can weight your grades here shortly. I'm going to go back to general for the moment, and most often you'd probably want to collect the email addresses. So our students in the Clovis schools, our students' email addresses are their state ID at clovis-schools.org. So you'll want to see who's responding, so you can see that. And then response receipts. Sometimes the sender wants to know, did you get that or not? So you can include that. Always, or if a respondent requests that. If I scroll down, restrict users to users in Clovis Municipal Schools and its trusted organizations. Now, since we're an entity user for Google, they're very protective. So if we're in Google Classroom, I can only add students from my domain to protect our security, rightly so. With some of the options of sharing, like in Google Docs, you can actually share something with people in your domain as well as outside of your domain. Just depends. You'll usually get a little warning. Do you want to share this with those people outside our domain? You just click yes. Here as well, I can do a Google form, and I don't have to restrict it to users. I can uncheck that, so I could send this to anybody. I could send it to multiple districts or people with a private Gmail address or another type of email address, doesn't matter. You have the option to limit to 1 response. You might want to do that, especially if it's a quiz. You might want to do that. And or if you're having people vote on something, you might want to uncheck that so that they can think about it and, you know, revise their answer. For now, I'll just leave it limited to 1 response. Respondents can edit after submit. Now, that's also something maybe you want them to go in. Could be a form that is collecting data on a long term. So you might want them to be able to edit after submit. They could go back in and update the information they've already put in. And then see summary charts and text responses. I'm going to check that because it's kind of a neat way to see the data, especially if you're sharing it with your students. And you might even not have email addresses and share it so that you could have a question with students like, what kind of a day are you having? Good, great, or I don't feel really good right now, bad day. So you would definitely want to have that anonymous, but you could still check this and see a summary and share with everybody. Oh, it looks like some of us are having good days, some are having bad days. So kids always like to see that kind of response. So anyway, I'll just leave that check for the moment. And edit after submit, you choose if you want to have that or not. I'm going to scroll back up. Presentation, the next option. I generally recommend clicking a check mark in the box next to show progress bar, simply because when we do surveys, when you're at a restaurant, they're always asking for feedback, and or we're online and you'll see a website and they would say, please fill this in. And a lot of times we think, oh, I don't have the time to do this. But if it's not very long, or if you see how far you have to go, you're more likely to respond. So I like to check that, and I'll show you in a minute what it looks like since we've checked it. And then shuffle question order. If you've made this a quiz, you definitely, well, if kids are sitting in the classroom, that would be a very useful feature to check shuffle question order. So as they glance at their neighbor's Chromebook screen and they see, oh, that's not the same questions I have. Wait a minute, they're in a different order. So less likely to collaborate too thoroughly. So that would be that shuffle question order. Then show link to submit another response. So if you wanted to do that, you could. You can also have a confirmation. Thanks for responding. You can have it's a nice opportunity to have kind of a personal response from your teacher. So thanks for responding, and I'll put my name there. And if I make any changes, I do need to save those. If I still want to explore those, all I do is click on the little gear to go back into the settings. So those are the changes that I've made. And presentation and quizzes, I'm going to go back in there in a minute. Now we want to look at what changes that we have made. Now remember, one of the things, I think I pointed it out, but I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these items. Down at the bottom, you see where it's required? I'm going to click on this one. They all have, I have to click on it first to make it editable, and then I have this little bar at the bottom. And my answer key, if I were going to make it a quiz, this is where I would go ahead and put my answer in. So right there. So that's the difference there. But here's also where you could turn off the required button. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for a second on this one. And then let's go up and click on the I to see what our form looks like. Here we go. Our email address, when we see this asterisk, we know that that is a required response. So you cannot advance through your form unless you clicked on that. So this one has a red asterisk, that is required. And remember, I turned this one off so it doesn't. So I could go through here and just skip this one if I didn't want to answer it. So I'm going to go through. Here's my video. Now at the very bottom, I see that my progress bar. So look, this is a short survey, so I'm already halfway through, so I could see exactly what my progress is. If I click on the next page, that's going to take me, oh, you know what? I think it doesn't until it's completely finished. Didn't I do a second section? Well, theoretically, it should take me there. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I'm going to go ahead and go back into my editing mode. So I'm going to leave this page. Continue to next section. Okay. So let's see, what else do I need to know? The little arrows are for expanding. Okay, yes. Also up after the setting, then over at the right, we have the 3 dots. That means that there is more information. I also have the option here to undo things, make a copy. Maybe you get a form created and you think, oh, this is very useful. I've got it just right. So you can make a copy to send that. You can trash it, get the pre-filled link, print, add collaborators. If you wanted to work on something together with somebody else, you can always add them as collaborators. I get that a lot. Somebody's developing a evaluation form or a principal or a teacher. They say, could you help me with this? I said, just add me as a collaborator. When I click on that, it's kind of like the share form in Google. Just put the name in, you click done, and you can give them editing or just viewing or commenting powers, whatever you choose. And if you want them to help you with it, you'll want to make sure it's editing. And so then you can both see the very same form and work on that, work out something together. Script editor is kind of for a little bit of programming. You really won't need that. Here's add-ons again, same as this one, which may or may not be available. And preferences is what I wanted to show you here. This is where you could weight your grades. So collect emails, and then these are default settings, default quiz value. So this is where you could decide how you want to value your points and your questions. So I'm going to click out of that. Now I want to show you when you send it out, when you're ready with your form, you're ready to get it to your recipients, all you have to do is click send. And then here we've set it to collect email addresses, and I can send this via email. I can share it via a link. Here's the link. I just click on that, and I'm going to go back to email. But if you start typing in email addresses, I wonder if you can send it to a group. I'm not sure. Yes, actually, if you have groups created, you could actually send it to a whole group so you don't have to type in individual email addresses. It will populate all of those addresses. Here's the subject. If you wanted to change the subject, I've invited you to fill out a form, and they'll get a little notification, just like when someone shares something with you, you get that email notification, and you'll have a link to click on it and fill it in. You can also include the form in the email. I don't generally like to do that because in one email, it has all of that contained in there. If it's rather long, it just kind of takes up space. It's kind of unhandy. I like to not check that and just have the link, and then they go over to Google Forms. It opens it separately for them. and they click on it. Down here, you can also add collaborators again. And so that's what it like when you're finished, you just click send and it's going out. Now, be sure you have double checked all of your settings, because once you send it out, they start giving responses. You don't want to go back in and edit and change anything, because especially if it's important data, it's going to skew that data after you've sent it out to your recipients. So get it done correctly and then you're good to go. I'm going to jump back into forms because I want to show you some actual data so you can see what the responses are. You can see from this window, the one we just created, there's questions, and right next to that is responses. This is where you'll look at your responses. Of course, we don't have any right here. So I want to jump into, I'm just going to grab a new window, go back into forms. And we did an email Google form to see what kind of online trainings people would like. So this is the one. I'm going to open this up. This shows us our responses. So when we open it up, this is the actual survey that we sent out. And it shows me here questions. I could jump right in and start editing it because it's gone out and I've got responses. I don't want to mess with it, but I can see here responses. So if I click on responses, I will see it'll give you a number so you can see how many people have responded to your survey. And it will show me down here, I can look at it a summary view, so I can see all the email addresses. If I keep scrolling down, I will see, let me keep going. I can see, this is where I can see a graphic response. So I can see just by category, I can see as I said, the students like to see the responses of this. So I can see overwhelmingly everybody wants to learn about Google Classroom. I can keep going down and see all of my response like that. But when I go back up to the top, I can also look at the question. So I can see who chose view options. I can look at the response per question, or I can look at individual responses. If I wanted to see what one individual said, then I can look at that from the individual perspective. While I'm here on my responses tab, I can also click on this little green icon up at the upper right-hand corner. That's an icon for Google Sheets. And I just want to see what that was. The green icon, if I click on that, it opens up, it creates, if it hasn't been created, it opens up a Google Sheets, puts all of your data in that spreadsheet. So then you can go in and do any kind of manipulation with your data in spreadsheet form. It also includes, it inserts a first column with a timestamp. So if you're working with students and they say, well, I turned it in on such and such a time, you can go in and look and say, oh, no, it looks like it was 21:27 when you turned that in. And so you can always see what the response is. And each one of these columns is one of your questions. We wanted email addresses. We have the columns, and you can adjust the width of those columns. This was just a short survey to get some feedback quickly. So that's what we did. So I think we only had, oh yeah, we only had 4 questions. So I'm looking at everything here. If I have long answers, I can spread out the columns. And so each one represents your data. So you can look at that and do whatever you need to do with it. Now, here's my browser. It just opened this up in a different tab. So if I want to jump back to my survey, it's right here. So I'm right back to that survey that we sent out. So let me go back to our one that we're making up ourselves. And as we send it, I think that's probably the only thing I need to point out to you. I do have the option up here, this little folder. If I want to go ahead and organize it in advance, I can click on that little folder, takes me to my Google Drive, and then I can navigate to wherever I might want to store that. You can drill down. If you move it here, then later just remember where you moved it to. Otherwise, it'll just be at the overall general pile of forms in your Google Forms, or you can also find it on your Google Drive, because your Google Drive stores everything. We just happen to be in Google Forms looking at that. If you click on the star, that makes it a favorite. So later, if you're looking for certain things that you use frequently, you can go in and filter views by just the favorites, and that's the little star right there. So you just toggle that on and off if you want to make it a favorite. And I believe that's it. So if I'm going to upload this to our YouTube channel, so you'll have this available to see later. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I am going to put this, no, 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 I think I'll just, never mind. So thank you for watching.